Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and I am resuming my playthrough of Crash Bandicoot. In my last Crash-related video, I went ahead and knocked out the levels 1 through 11 for the remaster of the Crash Bandicoot game available in Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. And in that time, we got to see Dr. Neo Cortex and Dr. Nitrous Brio experimenting on animals to include Crash. And in the midst of the experiment, Crash managed to escape, but there was one other Bandicoot left behind, so Crash is now making his way back to the fortress where those doctors are at in order to rescue the other Bandicoot. And yeah, over those 11 levels, we managed to knock out 2 boss battles, one against Papu Papu and one against Ripper Roo. And in both cases, I died quite a bit, but I at least finished strong against Ripper Roo. I'd still say I did better with that second boss fight than I did with the first one, at least when comparing the number of deaths. Even if all of the dying ended up taking place off screen, thanks to the glorious magic of editing. And now we are on to a very interesting level, that being the Lost City. Now, this is level 12, and the reason it is as interesting as I am saying it is because this is going to be the very first opportunity we have had to go for a colorful gem. That's going to be the green one. So just a reminder, the criteria to get the colorful gem is to complete the entire level, get all of the crates in that level, and do so without dying. You can take as long as you want, but you cannot die, and you must get every single box. And I have to admit, the Lost City ended up being my grinding level. I had ran through the level so many times, I was extremely confident in my ability to complete it, and you can get a lot of extra lives on this level. So once you get good at it, you can kind of breeze through the level at a very quick pace and pick up a lot of extra lives along the way, and it was kind of my key way of getting to 99 lives. That way, I wouldn't have any problems for the rest of my playthrough. Now granted, I said that I stitched this playthrough together out of multiple playthroughs in order to show my progression through every single level and try and make it look as good as I could, so there are going to be times throughout this game where you see me with 99 lives, but there's also going to be plenty of times when you see me with substantially less. Oh, and we're coming up on an important part because there's going to be this jumping lizard up ahead, and we have to jump on that lizard and use the bounce to end up on top of those platforms in the walls that come out and try to push you off into the water. And once you're on top of those, there's going to be a little floating head icon for Dr. Brio. Dr. Brio being the guy with the bolts in his head. Now, that is an incredibly missable item because, well, if you kill the lizard without actually bouncing on him, you're not going to be able to get that little icon, which means you won't be able to access his bonus level, which also means you're not going to be able to get every single crate in the game. Or, well, that stage. And that's super duper important on this level specifically because the only way to get the lizard to come back is to die. But if you die, you cannot get the colorful gem. So you're just basically going to have to restart the entire level. And by restart, I mean you have to exit all the way back out to the overworld, and then you have to re-enter the level in order to restart it so it's not registering that you died on that level. Which is just more hassle than just waiting for the lizard to be in the right position and then bouncing off of it and getting that icon. So try not to make the same mistake as me if you're trying to go for the green gem. Wait for that lizard and make sure you don't screw it up, otherwise we're doing this all over again. Oh, and those boxes I just broke to get that last little icon, those were unlocked by hitting that metal box with the exclamation point a little bit further down. So yeah, that's what that box was for. And also, that lizard was super annoying. I was really convinced I was going to die in real time whenever I was going against that thing because it just would not leave me alone. But anyway, now it is on to the bonus stage for Dr. Brio. Now, Dr. Brio's bonus stages typically are explosive themed. So there's a very high likelihood that you will not complete these on your first try and get every single box. But I guess just as another reminder, you can die in a bonus level as much as necessary to get every single box because it will not count as a death for that level. So even though in all reality I died a bunch of times in this bonus level, none of them actually count as deaths, and whenever I do end up finishing this little bonus area with all the boxes I need, I can press on through the Lost City and still be eligible to get that green gem at the very end of the level so long as I end up with every other box without dying in the actual level itself. Bonuses are fair game. And there's not really too much to worry about because nothing really matters consequently for that area. And that's also going to be true for the other bonus level because, well, this I think is the very first level where there are two different bonus areas, one for Dr. Brio and one for the other Bandicoot. And don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up. And all right, excellent. Anytime I have to bounce off of one of those jumping lizards in order to get a box tends to make me a little bit nervous because even though I've gotten really good at this level, historically speaking, this was one of the things I had the most trouble getting down whenever I was doing this, well, for the first time. More often than not, I wouldn't get the depth quite right on the lizard, or it would move on me, or just something like that. Last thing I wanted to do was end up killing the lizard on accident, and then I can't get the box anymore, and then we're just starting this whole thing over again. And okay, this is an awkward bonus level because of those bouncing boxes that we have to go in the middle of. There's some beneath us and some above us, and you're just going to get put in a situation where you are very rapidly bouncing between the two different levels. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't have a fantastic way of completing this bonus level and getting all of the boxes. The method that I found to work for me was to immediately start spinning the moment I went into the bouncing boxes, and more often than not, I would come to a stop on the bouncing boxes. Something to do with the interaction between spinning and bouncing causes you to cease. And from there, you can kind of do a better job of targeting which of the bouncing boxes that you want to take out next. Is that fantastic advice? Not really, and I'm fully aware of that, but that's what I was shooting for and what eventually worked for me. And you get to see that kind of going on in the background. So hopefully seeing that in this playthrough in some way may help you out. Now ideally, and I think I've only pulled this off once or twice, I've managed to get onto the very top of all the bouncing boxes on that second level of them. Now that took some crazy luck to make happen, so I highly doubt that that's going to work out for you, but maybe you're more skilled than me. But yeah, that was the method I was taking whenever trying to complete that bonus level, and this is a great example of how these bonus levels start to get way more complicated over time. And alright, the final obstacle is upon us. We have one more jumping lizard puzzle. We have to jump on him and hit that box above him, that way we can unlock the actual final box. And just like that, we have the green gem. And I'm going to go ahead and take a completely unnecessary risk of potentially dying just to go get some more fruit. Looking back on this, I should have just went straight for the portal and not even risked the possibility that somehow I screw up and fall to my death and lose that gem, but I definitely threw aside caution and just went for fruit that I did not really need. Oh well, that's alright, it all worked out in the end. Oh, that is a job well done, and that's the very first of the 6 colorful gems, and, well, hopefully the remaining 5 are as easy as that. But we're not done with the Lost City just yet. We still have to go back to the beginning and do a speed run, the time trial, in order to get a relic of either gold or platinum. Which I don't think I took too terribly long trying to get the gem. But even so, the time trial should go by much faster than actually getting that gem. And initially I thought to myself that the Lost City was longer than the Fortress level, but as I look ahead at the relic I got and the time it took me to get it, I might be mistaken. It may have just felt like this level was longer because it takes me substantially less time to finish this level than it did the Fortress. Granted, that may have something to do with the difference in obstacles, and this level may actually be longer just with obstacles that don't take me as long to get past, but I don't know. It's not exactly like I'm taking a tape measure to these levels, so it's kind of hard to say which one is truly longer. But at the very least, I can look at the time to complete this level, and I can say that I do finish it about 30 seconds shorter, 35 seconds shorter than the Fortress. And it is at this point that we are about halfway through this level. What I would like to do is point out some things about this time trial and just identify those as difficult aspects of this level whenever you're trying to speed through it, so I could give you some ideas of things to avoid or some tactics to get past some difficult parts. The thing is, this whole level is kind of difficult to speed through because there's just so many different obstacles. I mean, from an enemy standpoint, the bats and the jumping lizards cause you to really have to time whenever you're trying to run or jump through an area because they can easily run into you at any point and cause you to be reset. And then there are a bunch of different jumps that you have to make throughout this level that can result in your death as well. Oh, and also there's the walls, the ones that push out and try to knock you off the ledge. trying to time those just right can be a little bit tricky because often what I found myself doing was being pushed to the end of the ledge and having to jump at the last second to kind of angle myself back onto the platform. Like, I wish I could tell you I have some excellent recommendations on how to make the time necessary in order to get the relic of either gold or platinum, but yeah, everything's out to get you and everything is trying to kill you, so all I can say is best of luck and run as fast as you can. In the end, that tactic works out for me, and I end up leaving this level with all the collectibles that we needed, and it's time to press on to the next level, the Temple Ruins. Now, as I returned to Crash Bandicoot over a year after I had initially played through the game and caught most of this footage, I did find that there were a couple of levels missing that I ended up needing to do over. We now find ourselves in yet another one of those levels, because whenever I was looking at the footage for the Temple Ruins, I found that I did not have the footage where I got the gem for that level. So similar to what I said previously about one of the river levels, I had to shake off the rust and then try to find my way through this level getting all the boxes in it, just so I could get that colorless gem and have the footage necessary to stitch all of this together. So while a lot of this footage is very old, this level specifically is one that I have actually done very recently, and we're getting to see what it was like whenever I came back to it. And I'd like to think that I did pretty good dodging all the snakes and the spiders and timing all the jumps with the platforms that collapse beneath your feet. Overall, I feel pretty good about my performance over a year after I had played the game previously. Although I am really grateful that this is still kind of towards the middle or the early part of the game, because some of those later levels, if I did not have the footage for those, they definitely would have been a nightmare to try and play through again all this time later. Plus there's definitely a difficulty spike around the 20th level or so, it feels like, which we're kind of starting to get close to that point. Let's see here, we're in the Temple Ruins, and that's level 13. No, I'll say the difficulty ramps up around level 17, which should be Sunset Vista. Now, I have a lot of things to say about that level, but I'll wait till we get there. So far, we are having a deathless completion of the Temple Ruins, and hopefully it stays that way. You'll see I am taking my time with this one quite a bit, both due to the fact that I was rusty with the game, and also just trying to make sure that I was not missing anything important. I mean, you've kind of seen it in some of the other levels, but some of the box placement, well, it's not super obvious some of the time, so getting those crates can require a little bit of paying attention. And that is certainly a statement that's going to be very true for this level specifically, and I'll show you what I mean when we get to the right point. But yeah, if you're not paying attention, you can easily miss some boxes on this level. Oh right, and other obstacles I was facing as a person who had not played this game in a really long time, we have these platforms here that are just rotating around, forcing you to jump onto a moving target. We also have the bats flying through certain tunnels, and we also have a few walls that will, oh, how do I say this? They will slam together and try to squish you and make Crash paper thin. Yeah, that works. So yeah, even more obstacles that I had not faced in a long time, and I was making sure that I was doing my best to account for. Now earlier I mentioned there was a part where you really need to be paying attention or you were going to miss some crates necessary to get the gem on this level, and here is that point. Now you probably saw me staring at this and evaluating it, and that's because in real time I was not 100% sure what I was looking at, but I had a pretty good hunch. And where you saw that levitating fruit over absolutely nothing going into the dark depths where you would just assume you would fall and die, well, there's actually a path of boxes right there. They're just invisible until you step on them, and whenever you step on them, they are revealed. And you can follow those all the way to a platform that is just off screen otherwise, and there are a bunch of boxes there. Also, that path is made up of partially breakable boxes as well. And if you don't know that, you're missing out on a bunch of crates that you have to break in order to get the gem for this level. So yeah, just a heads up, this exists, this is a thing. This can cause you to miss out on those crates and have to play through this whole level again in order to get the gem. And yeah, here is my little shout out so you can avoid that situation. And at this point, we are getting pretty close to the end of the Temple Ruins level. We just have to get past these rotating platforms, which I don't know if the original rotating platforms did this, but these specifically do collapse at certain points, so you cannot stay on them. Oh yeah, I forgot about this little platform that takes you to the next section. Anyway, so you can't just ride on those things the entire time and circle around the area to the platform that you need to get to. And I believe there's only 2 more instances of these rotating, collapsing platforms, and then we're clear of those. Besides that, though, we just have to nail a few jumps, avoid some fire, avoid a spider, And I think there's one more hallway where the bats and the slamming walls are, and other than that, we should be in the clear and get the gem and call this one done. In fact, I do believe that is the very last box of the level right there. And it was, and we have the colorless gem. Cool, that was easy enough. Let's just go ahead and get through this hallway without dying, which should be pretty difficult to do considering I had a level 2 mask entering this hallway. So I have a lot of leeway with getting hit through this thing. And yeah, we are as good as done at this point. Time to press on to the very next level. Or excuse me, I actually still have to do this time trial where I get to the end of the level within a certain span of time and get another relic in either gold or platinum. Just ignore that death and we'll go ahead and act like this part of the trial was the very first one and we got it in one try. No need to acknowledge my failure there. Now, unlike whenever I went through this level to get the gem, this part was recorded whenever I was still very familiar with the game and a lot more used to it, so doing this time trial should go a lot more smoothly and a lot quicker than what we were just watching because, well, for one, I'm not trying to get every single box on the level, and two, since it was back whenever I was playing this game a bunch, my level of caution going through this level is going to be a lot different. I'm going to be way more reckless in trying to fly through this as quickly as possible, so this part should not take long whatsoever. In fact, how long did this take me to finish? It looks like my final time for this level was 1 minute and 13 seconds, which is not bad at all considering all the obstacles we faced along the way. Oh, and when I say this took me 1 minute and 13 seconds, that is the final time for the time trial. Now, if you take away all the time-stopping boxes I hit along the way, it definitely takes me a lot longer than that to complete this level, but since those freeze time, and that's stopping the clock as well, the final time that it displays whenever we finally get the relic at the end of the level is not truly how long it took us to get through the level, just what it counts. So yeah, 1 minute 13 is what it counts whenever we get the relic at the very end. And here we go, we are down to the very last few seconds, and we get through this hazard-filled hallway without any trouble, and yeah, 1 minute 13, and I guess we'll call it 1 minute 13 and a half, and we get another platinum relic, one of very few that we have gotten throughout this playthrough. Very, very nice. And next up we have a level that definitely would have qualified as childhood trauma for me. That's going to be the level Road to Nowhere, which is also going to be level number 14 for us. And yeah, as you can tell, Road to Nowhere is kind of unique in that it's the very first stage of its kind, which there's usually at least 2 stages of each kind that's been introduced in the game. What I mean by that is like Hog Wild, you're riding the boar through the area, there's like 2 of those. Then there's boulders where you're being chased by the boulder. There's like 2 levels of that. And like there's 2 river levels. And so on and so on. There's like 2 of everything. And Road to Nowhere is the first of its kind, where we're up in the clouds on this very rickety breaking down bridge, and we're trying to jump from plank to plank throughout these broken down bridges, and we try to reach the very end of the bridges, the very end of the level, without falling into the cloudy, foggy, guaranteed death below. Now, as a kid, I found that my jumping accuracy was pretty terrible, and I was misjudging the depth for which I needed to jump, and I was very frequently falling into the cloudy death below. Now, this is a stage that as an adult definitely does not carry the same amount of difficulty that it did whenever I was a kid. Plus, it helps whenever you know how to cheese this level if it comes down to it. This will be more relevant in the second level of this type, which is called High Road. We'll see that around level 24, but yeah, one thing that you can do if you're just really struggling with these jumps is you technically can land on the rope handles of the bridge, where you can jump up on top of that rope handle and kind of just tightrope your way across. Now, it's kind of easy to screw up that jump onto the ropes, and also you kind of have to angle crash just right to stay up on those ropes, but you can definitely sprint your way down those ropes all the way to the very end of the level if you know what you're doing. And then suddenly you're just flying through this without having to face any of the hazards like, planks that fall down or boars that are just randomly running down the bridge. Which I feel like they're here because they heard what we did to their buddy, riding him like a horse. And they're like, you know what? No, that is too much humiliation for our cousin. I don't know what their cousin's name is. I guess we're going to just name him Bacon. Anyway, that was too much humiliation for Cousin Bacon. We're going to go after this Crash Bandicoot guy and we're going to teach him a lesson. We're also going to defy gravity running across, well, nothing on this bridge in order to try and gore him. Oh man, there's a lot of crazy crap in the world of Crash Bandicoot, but I do think that gravity-defying boars, well, that's definitely one of the crazier things. I guess that means pigs can fly. Oh, and I was just talking about the second iterations of certain levels, and sure enough, I am now on one of them. We got the relic in the previous level of Road to Nowhere, and now we find ourselves on level 15, Boulder Dash, which is yet another scenario where we have to do the Indiana Jones run with a boulder falling right behind us. And if we are a little bit too slow, we get crushed by the rock. This one is going to be a tiny bit more difficult than the original Boulders level, but still it's not too bad, and similar to the previous one, since you're having to run as quickly as you can to get away from that boulder, you are going to be completing this level in really good time. So honestly, as long as you don't die and you complete the level, it's kind of difficult to get lower than a gold or a platinum relic level. So I definitely categorize this as one of the easier ones to get the needed relic for, 100%ing this game. It's right up there with the other boulders level and also the hog riding levels, the hog wild and the whole hog levels. And I didn't mention this in the previous Road to Nowhere level, but that is one that we're going to have to backtrack to later because the stage gem, the colorless gem for that level, is not achievable until you have the red colorful gem, which we won't have until we get to the slippery slope level. And also here in Boulder Dash is a similar situation where we also cannot get the gem for this level because, well, it requires a colorful gem as well. I don't remember which one it is for this level, but we don't have it yet, so we will just have to take care of that later. Actually, on a few of these levels where it requires a colorful gem, you may see the platform already available for us to utilize to get to the boxes that are otherwise unavailable. Like I mentioned in the very beginning of the playthrough, not all these levels were done in order. In some cases, I already had the colorful gems whenever I was going for the relics, and it seems like I should be able to do that, but since I am taking this one level at a time from start to finish, I'm kind of just ignoring those until we reach the point to when I achieve those colorful gems in this stitched together combined video, and then we're going to backtrack to those just like we would have if we had actually gone in order. So yeah, if you see those, just ignore those. We haven't got to those yet. We'll get to those whenever it's appropriate. And continuing the levels in the intended order, next up we have the level Whole Hog, which you can technically skip and go to the next level, Sunset Vista, instead, but I'm going to go ahead and knock it out in this order and just call this level 16. And then we'll call Sunset Vista the very next level, level 17. Now, in post, I realized that I stitched this one little level together in the opposite order that I normally do. Normally, the order is if I can get the gem, I'll go ahead and get the gem first, and then I will do the time trial for the relic. Here, on the other hand, for some reason, I put the relic first and the gem second, but just know that you can get both on this level. And we will be seeing both scenarios play out here. And yeah, we're yet again getting to ride a boar through a level at supersonic speeds. And man, if the boars on the rickety bridges were mad at us before, they're going to be really pissed that yet again one of their cousins is getting rode through a level. And I guess if the other cousin was named Bacon, we'll just go ahead and call this guy Ham. Now, we have already gotten a few deaths on this level, so it's pretty safe to assume that Ham is not quite as efficient of a runner as Bacon was, but Ham is still doing pretty good. After all, in the time trial to get the relic, we ended up finishing the level in about 25 seconds, or 25 counted seconds. Like we mentioned before, it was definitely more than that, but 25 seconds is still really good, so excellent job, Ham. Please just stop, running into pits and other objects and causing Crash to die. I would really appreciate it. But no, Ham is going to come through for us here today. We're going to get every single crate so that we can also add a gem on top of that relic on this level, so yeah. Oh, come on, Ham, I just gave you a pep talk about this. No more falling into pits of doom. Alright, let's try this again and get those crates and try to finish up this level in style. I believe in you, little buddy. Our little pig friend is going to be coming through for us in a pretty big way on this level. And speaking of this level, one of the unique things about it is certainly its music, which is some of the most upbeat, fun music in the entire game, to be honest. Like, I just love how lively it is. Anyway, we're at the level's end now, and sure enough, we hit every box along the way, and we do have the gem now. So yeah, a few deaths aside, this was a pretty straightforward and easy level. And now it is time to proceed on to something a lot less simple. it's time to check out the Sunset Vista. Which, as we're going into the Sunset Vista, I'm now realizing I said something super incorrect at the very beginning of this playthrough. Now, back in the beginning, I said that there were 2 collectible items that we were going to need in order to 100% this game and basically redo the steps it took to 100% the trophies for this game. What was incorrect about that was, well, there are more than 2 collectible items we need in the Crash Bandicoot remastered game. The other collectible item that we need and that I failed to mention previously, well, those are going to be keys. Now, the keys can be found on 2 different levels in this game, because there's only 2 keys in this game. And one of them happens to be here in the Sunset Vista. Now, in order to get a key, we need to unlock a very specific bonus level. Now, we're no strangers to bonus levels at this point. We've seen the one that is unlocked by getting the icons for the other Bandicoot. We've also seen the one that is unlocked by getting the icons for Dr. Brio. To get the key-related bonus level here on this level, we are going to need to get the icons for Dr. Neo Cortex. You can only really find those icons in this level and in the Jaws of Darkness level, which we will be seeing that a little bit later on. But yeah, we need to get all 3 of those, and they're pretty easy to miss in this level if you have never played through it before. Not to worry though, I'll be showing where those are in the background. But yeah, on top of getting all of the gems, and also all of the relics that are either gold or platinum for every single level, we would also need these keys in order to get all the trophies for this game. Now, besides just trophy hunting, those keys are relevant because you need to get those 2 keys and all of the gems in order to get the additional cutscene at the very end of the game. So even if you do not care about trophies, if you want to see all the little cinematics for how this game ends, you are needing to collect the keys and the gems, or at least you would need to do that if you wanted to earn the ending cinematic for yourself. If you don't really care about earning it yourself, just stick around, you'll get to see it anyway. After all, I am going to be concluding this playthrough with it. So yeah, the key to getting the key is going to be the bonus level for Dr. Neo Cortex after you get all of his icons. Now, the other reason you're going to need all those icons is because it's also how we're going to get some of the crates necessary in order to get the gem for this level. So playing through this level in the background for the very first time is going to have a dual purpose. We are going to be getting the key and the gem for Sunset Vista at the same time. So even though there are more collectible items in this level than in most, we're still going to be limiting it to just 2 playthroughs of this level. Which I am thankful for in hindsight because Sunset Vista is a very long level. In fact, I kind of commented on long levels before, but I'm pretty sure Sunset Vista is the longest. In fact, I'll go ahead and double check that, but I am basing that on the number of floors to this level and also the amount of time it takes to complete it, since I think the time to complete for this level is higher than any other, at least when looking at the requirements for the relic for this level. And okay, I did my double checking and yeah, I'm right. Sunset Vista is definitely considered the longest level in the game, at least when basing it off of the relic completion times. Like for instance, to get the platinum relic for this level, you have to complete it in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. And that's to get the very best relic in this level. So more realistically, you're probably going to be completing this level in a higher time than that because, I mean, you really have to be just about perfect in every aspect of a level to get the platinum relic, which, with as much stuff as in this level, I am definitely not going to be perfect when I finish it. And especially here where I'm just trying to get all the boxes and also get the key, and I'm not trying to fly through this level. Yeah, we're going to be here a long time, at least long time when compared to the other levels in Crash Bandicoot. Which, speaking of comparing this level to other levels in this game, at 3 minutes and 41 seconds, I believe this level has over a minute higher requirement for its platinum relic than any other level in this game. Like, I believe the next highest relic requirement is for the slippery slope at 2 minutes and 26 seconds for a platinum relic. Hold on, let me check that. Yeah, 2 minutes 26 seconds. So yeah, it is a full minute higher than the next closest level. which a full minute in Crash Bandicoot is a pretty long time on a level. This is definitely a massive one to try and complete. And thank goodness the creators of this game were not sadistic enough to make this level one where you were trying to get a colorful gem. Because adding on to the incredible difficulty and length of this level, we would then also have to complete it, get everything in this, area, all the crates, doing so without dying. Like, that is the kind of stuff that'll just make you give up on a game entirely. Like, that just sounds so frustrating. Mind you, still wouldn't be the most frustrating achievement I've ever tried to get in a game, but it would definitely be up there. Like, as far as just ridiculous achievements in games go that I just have not managed to get, I'd still put Final Fantasy IX as one of the more egregious ones, and very specifically with the jump rope requirement. Like, there is a minigame in Final Fantasy IX where you have to do jump rope, but eventually the pace of the jump rope gets so ridiculous that you are going to screw up and you can't keep up with it. Like, you would basically have to have some sort of computer assistance with getting that achievement because you have to get a ridiculous number of repetitions in order to get the trophy for that game. But I'm over here ranting about a completely different game than the one that I'm playing. The point being, I'm glad they didn't make this level more difficult than it already is, because that would just be one of the most infuriating things ever, because this was already a really challenging one to get all the way through, get the key, get the gem, and then get a gold or platinum relic level. And even though we were just talking about Slippery Slope still not being nearly as long as this, being shorter by what this game would consider a full minute for the relic requirement, I would still definitely consider Slippery Slope more difficult, and it's basically for the exact same reason we were just discussing. One of the saving graces of this level is the fact that there is not a colorful gem linked to it. So you can die pretty much as you need to in order to get all of the crates on this level. And then whenever you're doing your time trial for the relic, you're not really too worried about the deaths because at least you're not trying to get all the crates. You still have to blow through this entire level as quickly as you can, but at least you're reducing the amount of crap that you have to do. One level that does not necessarily give you the same luxuries is Slippery Slope, because there is a colorful gem linked to that level. So even though it is a comparable level of difficulty, at least on paper, I would definitely consider it much harder, because on that one, not only do you have to get through the entire level without dying and in a good amount of time to get the relic, you also have to get through the entire level without dying and getting all of the crates on that level so that you can get the colorful gem. And keep in mind, it is a comparable length and difficulty to this one. It is just a nightmare of a level. And you'll get to see exactly what I'm talking about when we get there. So right now we are on level 17, Sunset Vista, and Slippery Slope is level 25. So yeah, we're less than 10 levels away, and then we get to do that comparison while actually going through the level. But enough about Slippery Slope, we're not there yet. We are at Sunset Vista, and right now we are on the very top floor of this level. And it is on this top floor that we will start finding the Dr. Neo Cortex icons. In fact, we already have one of them, and we died trying to get the second one. Fortunately, dying in this level does not take away any of the icons that you have already collected. And to get the second Dr. Neo Cortex icon, you have to get on top of the walls that push out and try to knock you off the ledge to your death. So timing that one is kind of tricky. And thankfully, since, they don't go away when you die, you can afford to just get the icon and get pushed off the ledge to your death whenever getting that second one, because at least you get to retain it whenever you come back to the checkpoint. Oh, and by the way, the very first icon was back at the Leaping Lizard, where you had to jump onto the lizard, bounce off of him, hit the metal box above him, which then would spawn a bunch of boxes in a little room slightly to the back of where you were at. You can see it spawning. And then you take out those boxes, and within one of them is the first icon. So yeah, every single one of the Cortex icons are up here. We'll get the third one here in a little bit. So if you've gone through, 2/3 of the level and you are wondering when those icons were going to start popping up, now you know, they're all up here. In fact, you can actually see the box that contains the final Dr. Neocortex icon just slightly behind some of those structures over there behind the Ferris wheeling platforms. So that's where we need to get to, but let's see here. Yeah, okay, no, you cannot jump over that little structure there and get to the box that way. We have to go the long way around. Yeah, so I guess it goes without saying, but we do need to avoid the possibility of falling to our death on multiple different platforms that either retract on us or are continuously moving, so that's going to be pretty fun. But as long as we successfully navigate all the hazards of jumping around, we're in pretty good shape, because then we can get to that little back area, get the Cortex icon, and then we are directly beside the bonus level for Cortex, which effectively means we are right next to a checkpoint, because then we can just do that little bonus area as many times as necessary, and once we finally finish it, that becomes a checkpoint, so if we die, we just restart right there outside of where the bonus was. So that is a pretty nice little position to be in as long as we don't screw anything up too catastrophically along the way. And alright, we are now within the Cortex bonus level, which, similar to the Dr. Brio levels, includes some explosives that we have to navigate around, which, honestly, for such a unique requirement, to get that key, and there only being 2 Cortex-specific bonus areas, this one's really not that bad or that complicated. I mean, even though I say that, I still end up dying in this bonus area because it's me and my execution is always a little bit iffy, but my poor execution aside, this one really isn't bad, especially when compared to a bunch of other bonus levels along the way. Not that I'm complaining, by the way. Like I said earlier, this is not the easiest level to get through and get all the collectibles in, so I will take whatever break I can along the way to make my life a little bit easier as I get all this nonsense. But alright, we got the key from the bonus area for Cortex, and I am just now realizing that there is actually one more floor for this level. I thought that there were just 3. Now there is a 4th one. My goodness, this level is longer than I remember. Which is saying something because I remember it being really, really long. Alright, that's cool. Not to worry, we just got one more bonus area to go in this top floor, and then we are done. This marathon of a level will be completed, and I have to admit, I'll be taking a break after commentating on this level. Mind you, no one watching this is going to notice any sort of a break, because it's going to be a seamless transition from my voiceover right now in this moment, and the next one for which I'll be throwing into the video immediately after this. I mean, you might notice a slight change in tone in my voice, which tends to happen whenever we record at different times, but besides that, the video will just keep on videoing and I'll just keep on talking as if nothing ever happened. But no, I'm pretty much done after this level. I think I'm going to need my break after that. And fortunately, to make things a little bit easier on me wrapping all of this up, I do manage to first try victory the bonus level, getting all of the boxes and just barely avoiding blowing myself up. So yay, happy accidents, we got that in one try. Let's just get to the very top of this level already, get to that 4th floor, which I really, really hope is actually the end of this level. There's not like a 5th floor that I just completely forgot about. And then we will get to see the conclusion, we'll get the gem, we'll get the key, and we will call it a day. Well, I'll call it a day. You'll call it a brief transition from current me to future me, which is certainly an interesting phrase because technically all of this is going to be me in the past talking anyway by the time this video is released. So it's all past me, but I'm calling it present me and future me. Yeah, that's not complicated at all. And regardless of what past, present, future tense you want to go with here, I am currently being my own worst enemy because I have fallen down this little escalation to these rotating platforms bunch of times. Like, I keep falling and just plummeting further down, having to climb all the way back up and falling all the way back down. And yeah, my own mistakes are dragging out this already exceedingly long level. Now just imagine making that mistake right here, going up to the 4th floor when you are being timed and you are trying to make either that gold or that platinum relic happen. Like, that is one of the most disheartening ways to lose the time trial that you could possibly imagine. Like, it's not even an enemy killing you or you falling to your death. you're still alive and you fall and you just know you can't make up the time and you just have to restart the whole level over again. I can't tell you how many times that happened whenever I was trying to go for the relic here and in a couple of other levels like the fortress, for example. But in the end, I do end up getting the gem and I do end up getting the key for that level. I stopped falling all the way back down that little climb I had to do and I wrapped up the level the first time around to get the gem and the key. But that still leaves one more collectible to get, so I still have to get the relic. It is time to do the time travel for the Sunset Vista, and it is going to be a doozy. I think we can clock in 4 minutes and still get the gold relic, so expect about a 4-minute run here. Just fingers crossed I don't die like midway through or something like that and have to start all the way over because, oh boy, that is going to be just an absolutely terrible situation to have to witness. And I do absolutely love that I am pretending like this hasn't already happened, asking for fingers crossed and good luck as if I didn't already fail at doing this like 90 times before I finally succeeded and got that relic. But we'll just go ahead and pretend like that isn't the case because, yeah, I definitely failed at this probably even more than 90 times if I'm being completely honest. More than I could count. We'll put it that way. Like, I failed at this so many times, you just give up hope and you just want it to be over. Like, it's no longer even fun at that point. You just want to do literally anything else, and then eventually you finally get it, and it's just like, oh, finally, thank you. I can press on to some sort of an easier level where hopefully I never have to deal with this ever again. And it is that exact same mentality that makes me approach Sunset Vista in a very similar way to Slippery Slope, where I will probably never delete this video out of fear I will need it again someday. And I do not ever want to have to play through this level to this degree ever again. And alright, I am back from my break and I am feeling refreshed. Let's go ahead and continue with this time trial for Crash Bandicoot. We're about halfway through this level and making a pretty good time, but we still have a little bit of a ways to go and some time to kill. So I guess I did mention something a bit earlier in this playthrough where I said that I did not think that this was one that I was going to do. And the reason I did not foresee myself doing videos on a playthrough of Crash Bandicoot was mostly because I had forgotten that I had done it, but when you look at some of the other playthroughs I've done, like with Batman Arkham Knight or the Mortal Kombat story modes, there is a decent story and a lot of dialogue going on. So there were plenty of things to dissect in those stories. Now with Crash Bandicoot, as fun as it is to play, there's not really an elaborate story going on. We had the initial animal testing, and we saw that there was another Bandicoot being held captive, and then we have Crash Bandicoot making his escape and then trying to find his way all the way back to the tower so he can rescue his counterpart. Outside of that, there's not really any talking or any other explaining of things going on. We're just going from level to level and trying not to die. So without there being a really grand story to talk about, I was kind of hesitant to do this because that meant I was going to be pretty much doing non-stop talking and carrying the playthrough on my own from a dialogue standpoint. But I would say mostly the reason I didn't think this one was going to happen was because I had forgotten about the footage, which is kind of a funny thing to think about because when I did find it, I realized I had about 70 gigabytes worth of footage that I could go through in order to get this playthrough together. So it wasn't like there was just an insubstantial amount of gameplay, so it was easy to forget about. Like, there was a lot. And then I discovered it again, I'm like, oh yeah, I should really do something with this. I guess another thing that is kind of noteworthy about me playing through Crash Bandicoot and then turning it into a video or videos that I upload is that this is going to be the very first video game that I have done that was rated E for everyone. Every other game that I have done so far was rated M for mature. Now that is not an indication of any kind of a change that's going to be happening for the videos that I do. I can pretty much play any game that I want as long as I find it entertaining. But I just thought it was kind of an interesting switch because most of the games I've been playing have been incredibly violent. Although I guess in a way Crash Bandicoot is still incredibly violent, just not really bloody or gory, just more comical, because Crash can die in some pretty horrific ways, but they tend to turn it into a joke. And alright, Platinum Relic, very nice. So yeah, even though I am playing I guess what you would consider a more family-friendly game, the absurdity of it and the implied violence in a comical fashion is still plenty to keep my attention. Plus I have enough nostalgia for this game to where I really don't care what it's rated, I'm going to have a good time playing it. Anyway, enough flashing back in my own brain, let's go ahead and face off against the next boss, Koala Kong. Now I mentioned earlier that I believe that Ripper Roo is the only boss that returns for a future game, and Alright, he threw that rock a lot faster than I was expecting. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm actually running in advance next time instead of trying to react to his throw. Anyway, yeah, I was saying that Ripper Roo, I believe, is the only boss that returned for a future Crash Bandicoot game. And all the other bosses from this first game, with the exception of Neo Cortex, were never a boss again. And I guess that would kind of lead to a bunch of bosses that were not super memorable. And I have to say that Koala Kong, despite, having a decent look and the boss fight's plenty fine, but yeah, I kind of completely forgot about this character until I was playing through the Crash Bandicoot game again. Like, I have no recollection of this guy as a child. Well, I mean, I don't remember him from my childhood. Now, granted, I had completely forgotten about Pinstripe as well. He's a boss that we still have to face off against later, but at least once I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, now I remember that guy. He just wasn't very memorable to stay in my mind up to that point. But poor old Koala Kong here was just kind of forgettable. Although I do believe in the final ending, they do make an Arnold Schwarzenegger joke about him that's kind of funny. So at least he has that going for him. And after dodging enough of his rocks and his explosives, he eventually threw a heavy rock, and I would spin and knock that heavy rock back at him, and I did that enough times to finally defeat Koala Kong, and he gets carried away in a mining cart. Alright, having just knocked out Koala Kong, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. So yeah, this time around we managed to get all the way from level 12, the Lost City, all the way here on level 18 against Koala Kong. And after having defeated that boss, we're going to be progressing to the last island in Crash Bandicoot. So pretty much every single stage that we have to do from this point forward is going to be taking place on that island. And once we are over there in the next episode, we're going to kick things off with the very first level over there, which is titled Heavy Machinery. So yeah, we have that to look forward to, but that's pretty much going to do it here today for Thor's Entertainment. I'll have another episode of Crash Bandicoot gameplay out here soon enough, but for the time being, thank you for watching this video, and I do hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and hopefully I see you next time.